Oh my God, Steven, we made it another week.
Another week.
We did. We did. Okay, 2 weeks. I forgot. We weren't even on last week.
No, you had to go fix computers for patients at the hospital
Yeah,
you work
right.
at.
So
Make sure they don't die by
yeah, look,
computers
I'm
going
like a
down.
doctor. I got one of those things on my head, right? That the doctors wear, right?
Proctologist, maybe?
Proctology, right. So I'm trying something new today. We're trying the GRS head cam.
No, it's called the Hurl Cam.
Hurl Cam.
It's not going to be called a head cam. It's a
No.
Don't watch that, guys. You guys are going to barf. And
So we'll see how that pans out. So let's take a look first in the chat. Happy Friday, everyone. Welcome to Kickin' Old School. We always have Adam Caleb. He's always here. Big hearts to Adam. We have Andy's Game Room, Gallagher Guy 88, Stephen M, Jeff D. We weren't on last week. Unfortunately, my fault. But we're here this week.
You did announce it though.
I did. Sonic Fury's here. Jennifer Wyatt is here.
Who's that?
I don't know. It's like a stalker, I think. Goofy Foot's here.
Stalks you for years.
We have Goofy Foot here. Jeff D. I think we got Urjed, if I'm getting that right. Sonic Fund 01. Steven Schwarzentuber is here. And Kongs or Russ. Kongs is here. Hey, Kongs, look, man, what do you think about my head cam? Or Steven's calling it the Hurl Cam. This is the Hurl Cam. So we'll see how this works out. And Paul Berries is here, and Hobby Hands. So
welcome everybody.
So we survived the week, and we made it to another week.
What's the weather been like in New York?
You know what? It's actually been pretty warm. I actually washed my car the other day. Of course, it rained. As soon as you wash the car, it starts to rain. But it's been fairly warm. For February, I'm wearing a light jacket or no jackets necessary.
Turn up my audio, everybody's saying.
Turn up the audio again? I like keeping Steven quiet because, I don't want him being heard. That must be better.
Maybe.
Yeah, something like that. So, basically, it's been really nice here. How about up the Great White North up there?
Here in Canada, the weather is essentially you get all the seasons within a few hours. So it's melting in the afternoon. It gets like stupid cold at night. So you've got an ice rink outside by the time you go outside, and everything's melted. So you take out your skates and you go for a nice little skate, and that's the way it is. So, and my kids have been sick at home all week. Basically,
everyone's
sore
saying-
throats. It's not COVID. It's just
Okay,
the normal
I
cold.
guess-
It's just stupid.
I guess people want to hear you, Steven. I'm getting Congress saying much better, Sonic much better. Everyone's saying your audio is better. I like keeping you low. I don't want people hearing you too much. But
too low.
But we came back. We had a really successful episode of our cartoon intros. Back in the 80s and so forth. We're probably going to do that again next week. We're not doing it today because we actually have a guest today. Correct? We actually have
guest.
Someone actually says, you know what? I'll actually be seen on your show. Someone actually said that. Welcome, Tech Buzz. We see you here. So who do we have today, Stephen? Who do we got coming in today?
Essentially, we have a YouTuber. His name is Matt, and he has a YouTube channel called Retrobits. And welcome, Matt.
It's Retrobits. Retrobits.
Thanks, Steven. Hello, Glenn. Happy Friday, everybody.
Happy Friday. Wait, I forgot to wait.
You got the little sounds there.
Yeah.
So basically, Matt is a YouTuber basically that I discovered by looking for Commodore 64, Amiga stuff, and the content appealed to me. So I was like, this is pretty cool. So I subscribed and watching him week after week. And then he had an episode that he went to Toronto, virtually Toronto, sorry. And then he had picked up some computers on a drive to Toronto to go see his sister that lives there. So, and I sat there and I went, oh, hey, that's pretty cool. I've been to Toronto. He lives in the U.S., but I'll let him say all that stuff. Basically, his channel, how many subscribers have you got? Not that it matters, but,
He's got more than us.
Just under 16,000. I think end of this week, early next week, we'll tick over the mark.
Congratulations.
16,000. Wow.
Now, when did you start your channel?
Just under 3 years. It'll be 3 years in May, I want to say.
Nice. I've been doing this for like 30 years. I still have 5 subscribers. So congratulations, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
He's doing something right.
Making Commodore content. People love the Commodore content.
I
do too.
I mean, still
Go ahead.
the #1 selling computer of all time. And that's, a single machine, right? So IBM's got multiple different companies, but for a single computer, the Commodore 64, I believe, is still the #1 selling computer. Right?
Personal computer of all time. Yeah. In the Guinness Book of World Records. Yeah. It still holds the record for the single most sold. No wonder he's got 16,000 computer lovers out there that go there. And
yeah, they sold 17 million of them. And now I'm not sure if it's the best-selling single branded home computer or if that applies to the personal computers as well, because there's a distinction there. And if you add those qualifiers, does it mean that no computer sold after 1995 could possibly, unseat the Commodore 64 because those are now PCs and not home computers? I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. So that's cool. So 3 years ago. So what's your content mostly about, in a sense, what are the different machines you cover? So.
Yeah, it's all retro computers from the 8 and 16-bit era. Stuff that I loved growing up, stuff that I have a particular affinity for sure, but also things that I never got to experience when I was growing up that we didn't have in the schools.
Women and girls like me.
Yeah, well, yeah, except there's different channels for that. That's my second channel. We have a hot tub stream. No,
hot tub stream.
But yeah, it's all the stuff that I either loved when I was a kid or didn't get the opportunity to even experience, see, or even try as a kid. So I'm going back now and finding out what I missed.
Yeah. A lot of guys do that. Like, they'll just go back and check it out, right?
It's a great excuse to buy stuff that you really shouldn't.
It is, and I still to this day have not owned a Commodore 64 or a VIC-20 or PET.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I've had the Amiga lines. I've used
We're going to try to change that.
I have emulators, but it's not the same. So I have the joystick that was made. I forgot who made it, but it's actually like a complete Commodore 64 built into a joystick, and you can actually mod it for a disk drive and stuff. So I have that.
It's a Competition Pro joystick that
yes.
Yeah, hooks up
that
to the
girl
the
made. I forget her
composite,
name there.
Right.
At the top of
But
my head
it's
there,
great design, beautiful design, and like the Atari Flashback 2, you can actually add real hardware to it. But my plan is one day to actually get a true, Commodore 64, the original. I mean, I know they have the new one that looks like the 128, which is actually showing right here in one of your videos right here. You know.
Yeah, I can't recommend it enough. There's so many of them out there. They're very accessible. They're very easy to work on, and there's just an incredible amount of community development on the Commodore 64. I would say there's 10 to 20 new
it's nuts.
pieces of software a week, and every once in a while you get a drop of a AAA title, like one just came out 2 days ago, a Pig Quest. It's been years in development.
Oh yeah, I know.
It's
I heard
absolutely astounding. It is just mind-blowingly good. It's amazing what the developers are doing, pushing the limits of these systems.
Have you tried the Star Wars game, the Empire Strikes Back one?
Yes, I have. Yeah.
Unbelievable what they've done with that thing.
Yeah, they've taken the Atari board and they just added
take it
levels
to
and
another
levels.
level. Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing.
It's pretty cool. Oh, by the way, we had a comment in the chat that basically, how did you, like Paul, how did you get
that was from Paul. Let me find that again. Here we go.
So
Paul Ferraris, how did you get so many subs without covering Arcade 1-Up? People want to know. How is this possible?
Yeah.
Right place at the right time, perhaps. I have actually never owned an Arcade 1-Up. I've used them, but it's just not what I cover. I think there's a certain amount of luck to it. You cover a topic that people are particularly interested in at a particular time. Mr. FPGA,
Yeah,
Mr. Project.
Yeah. I honestly, you put a lot of effort into certain things, and you think those are going to really resonate with your audience, and then they don't. And then certain things that you thought, oh well, it's just a thing I'm doing. People get really interested in that, and you just never know. You just don't know. So
you're talking Glenn's language here. Yeah. I don't have a YouTube channel yet, but
I tell you, one of the games that I remember distinctly on the Commodore 64 that I love so much. I actually bought it, for the PC, was Maniac Mansion and the Zach McCracken and the Alien Mindbenders.
The LucasArts games, yeah.
Yeah, they were just awesome, and that Sid chip. When that game came out, was like, whoa! It was really like, wow. And but I know there's a lot of other
games. Produces a great,
It does.
Now you probably know this more than anyone. I know there's like the recreated motherboards for the 64, and some of them support two SID chips. There you go. They support 2 SID chips. What is the advantage to having 2 operational SID chips in a 64 that normally had 1?
So a single SID chip can produce nominally 3 voices of audio. It has 3 oscillators, and it only comes out of one side, left speaker, right speaker. If you have 2 SIDs, you can either have stereo where the second one mirrors the first one and you can get, 3 voices on each side, or if the software is coded for it, you can have 6 discrete voices and you can get stereo. And so there's a lot of stereo music that's out there now that really takes advantage of having the second SID in it. And a lot of, there's some number of game titles that do as well. Not that many.
So there actually was, I assume, newer games that were created to support 2 SID chips. Games back from the 80s and 90s didn't support 2 SID chips.
No, not really, no. Yeah. Like the Super Mario Brothers port
back then, right? So with that configuration.
So I did a video on the history of stereo SID in the Commodore 64 and traced it all the way back to when it first was developed and how it came to be. So it's been a thing since the 80s, and it really was. They had conventions. They had entire conventions for SID music. They were called SID Fests. And in the North American market, most of the SID tunes were created using Compute's music system, whereas overseas in Europe, they made .SID files, which were more like assembly coded, actually native code. It wasn't played in a music player. It was code that was executed. So completely disparate systems doing similar things. But yeah, they had conventions where people would demo their most recent compositions on the big speaker system in a convention hall. So yeah, interesting times.
Well, the Commodore machines, first you have the SID chip, and they definitely had great music. And then, of course, the Amiga had, the mods. Then Octomod was still using 1 Paula chip, but they were getting you 8 channels of sound out of it. And the sound effects on both machines and the music on both machines were cutting edge at the time. And correct me if I'm wrong, when they did the Commodore 65, which wasn't actually officially released, there was a couple that got out there. Did that have an improved SID chip in it, or that was still the original SID?
No, just the original SID, as far as I know. The reason being is the engineer who designed the SID left in 1983. He left Commodore, and so they never had another breakthrough development like that in terms of an 8-bit sound chip.
Gotcha.
That's crazy when you think about what that chip pops out and the difficulty that people now have not been able to replicate it perfectly, it's amazing. Like there's ARM Sid and a few other modern replacements, but still people go, it's not the same. It's not the same.
Yeah, well, even between SIDs, there's different. Someone in the comments just mentioned that, Jason, that 6581 and the 8580, they're completely different sounds. And even between revisions of the same SID, they sound different. No two SID sounds exactly the same.
Now, real quick, I'm just going to go back to the chat here. We have Jason M, who joined, obviously. We have P-Dubs, Arcade Loft, and Super Gamer Dudes will be on at 9 p.m., so everyone tune into that. Carl O is here. Stephen M. I think I got everyone else who's been in the chat. I just wanted to really quickly say hi to everyone. And
shout-outs.
Shout-outs. Now, the Commodore 64 is obviously the bread and butter on your channel. But now, when you were growing up, what was the first machine that we always ask the same questions, but it's always interesting to hear the answers. What was the first system you used? But also, what was the first system like you even seen? Like you were a little baby, you walk around, the first time you see this thing, what did you think?
All right, so I was born in the mid-'70s, and by the time I was old enough to have memories, there were already second-generation game consoles and the first generation of home computers. So TRS-80, Apple II, and the I guess the VIC-20 would be out in 1980. But the PET came out before that.
That was the wonder computer of the 1980s, according to William Shatner.
Yeah. So my family had their first computer was a Texas Instruments TI-99 4A. Those came out in 1979, 1980.
It became Glenn's new best friend now.
Yeah, that's
you had one too. You had one too.
Yeah, the TI-99 4 was out in 79, and then the 4A came out a year later in 80.
And that's the one we had. We had the cost-reduced beige model, so it would have been around 82, 83 when we got our first computer. So I would have been about 5 years old when that happened. And so that was the first memory.
What games do you remember playing on your TI?
Oh, man. The best games for the TI were not the official TI licensed ones. They were the Atari Soft ones and the Parker Brother ones.
They did a really good job, didn't they?
Yeah.
What was your favorite?
Popeye, Pole Position, Moon Patrol, those were all really good ports of arcade games on the TI. Those were really polished. And Tunnels of Doom was an amazing dungeon crawler for its day. Had to load that off cassette tape. Took 2 to 3 minutes to load it.
Go make a sandwich, come back.
Yep, basically. Oh man, that was a good time though. We had patience back in those days. The games were slower, the load times were longer. But
so you had your TI. Obviously, that was your first real experience. Was the 64 your next one? You got that for like Christmas one day or birthday, or you saved money and bought it yourself?
Yes. So here's the story. After the TI outlived its usefulness, my folks decided they needed a better computer, one that had a printer and could do word processing. So they got an Apple IIc, and that was fine. That was a good computer for productivity. And it had a lot of games. I mean, there were thousands of games for it, Load Runner and Choplifter, and there were good titles, but they weren't arcade-like games. They didn't have the sound chip. They didn't have the brilliant color graphics that my friends had on their Commodores. And we also had Commodore 64s in the classroom, so I was playing them almost daily. My friends would bring in their titles, and we'd be playing them in the classroom. And I'd just be making a comparison between what I had at home and what they were playing, and I was very jealous about that.
I was waiting for that answer.
Yeah,
I was like, there's that trumpet sound. Wah, wah,
yeah,
wah,
I'm not trying to harsh on anybody who had an Apple II and loved it, because I did enjoy the games, and I did enjoy getting online. I had an Apple, had a modem on it, and dialed up to BBSs with the Apple II. But I wanted a Commodore, and I wanted it really, really, really badly. So that was the first machine that I saved up my money and bought for myself. I got a
what
job.
You paid back then for it?
I bought it brand new.
Right.
It was $125. It was a Commodore 64C, the cost reduced model that came out in '85. Yep.
The white one.
The white one. Yep. The one that this case that I just held up is modeled after.
Like the 128 style case, right?
Yeah, the smaller version of the same. Yeah.
My beige one's in the other room.
What were the first games you were playing on that? You get this machine home, you plunk it down. What was the first game you remember playing?
I can tell you the first game that I played because it's one I already had acquired. And there's a story behind that, which is really fun. And again, I'm sorry, I don't mean to.
You got to tell us the story.
Yeah, I don't mean to harsh on the Apple, but I went to Toys R Us as a 10-year-old or a 9-year-old with my allowance, and I wanted to buy a video game with it. And I looked at the boxes, and I remember the ones I'd played in the arcade, and I loved Kung Fu Master in the arcade, the Data East game.
Yes.
Awesome game. Box art looked amazing. Apple II version. It was a split disc, Apple II on one side, Commodore 64 on the other. And I brought it home, and I put it in my Apple II. And it was stick figures, and there was no sound. There was no music. There was no sound. It was just stick figures walking around very badly, and I was crushed. I spent my hard-earned allowance on this one game, and it was terrible, terrible. And then I brought it to school, put the Commodore side in, and I got the full box art experience, the music, the color graphics, the gameplay. It was all really tight. It was perfect. And that was the first game I played.
You didn't feel gypped out of your purchase.
Yeah, I got my money's worth eventually because I bought a Commodore to play that game.
That's cool.
So but if you had both machines already, you had basically one game for both systems. You just were very disappointed with the Apple version.
The only one I could play at the time. It really did influence my decision to buy this Commodore. Yeah.
Well, being a TI guy, you must have played some games on TI Basic. So you should have already known bad games from TI Basic.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and Logo. There was the Logo cartridge where you could program games where the sprites would move around, and they were very slow. It was really slow. The TI was held back by its memory architecture. It could have been so much more than it was. It really could have been.
Well, I talked about it many times on the channel, for people who are new. The TI-994A was the very first 16-bit home computer using basically a mini-frame chip. However, the original design was an 8-bit computer. The 8-bit chip CPU wasn't ready, so TI goes, take some of those TMS 990s over there, just slap it in there, and they did. And all that glue logic, you could have done the pi. You could have figured pi out to like 30 digits well before the TI hit 4 digits. That's how slow it was. But if you wrote an assembly language, you had a little bit, better chance of getting some more gameplay out of it. But I always remember the ColecoVision's architecture came from the TI. They actually did these 8-bit.
The video chip is the same.
Right, and the sound chip. Both video and sound chip are the same. And the control I/O. So the only thing really was different was the main processor, which was advantageous because they did a much better job with it.
Yeah, the TMS processor got it had 256 bytes of 16-bit memory, and everything else had to go through the video display processor to access the video memory to do anything else, and that's where the bottleneck was. So yeah.
And it's a shame because like Atari Soft, the Pac-Man game and Miss Pac were great, but they ran slow. But it looked awesome.
Yeah, the Atari Soft ports were really good. Yeah, maybe not the fastest things, but I mean, the TI's graphics, ColecoVision's graphics, MSX, everybody who shared that, they did a good job with those graphics. For the time.
Did you do any aside from Logo? Did you do any programming on the machine? Is that your thing?
That's something I wish I had done. I devoted a lot of my spare time to eventually running a BBS. So I spent a lot of time creating the Petsky graphic, screens, and I programmed a door game for the Commodore at one point. But it was no, I never learned assembly back in the day. I was too engaged with other pursuits, mostly playing games and being online. So
Steven, let's switch gears here a little bit with him.
I'm listening. I like listening.
I know. Well, so it's not about us. I talk a lot of Italian and German. I don't shut up. But when I do shut up, I try to listen. So now, I always ask this to people too. How many Star Wars movies are there?
Legitimately?
Legitimate movies. Yeah. How many legitimate Star Wars movies are there? This can mean whether our interview continues or are you just magically kind of,
Are you asking me or asking Matt?
Asking Matt. How many Star Wars movies?
I like there's 4 that I like.
Okay, let's hear that. Let's hear which ones.
Well, the original series that I grew up with, the episode 4, 5, and 6.
Okay, you're already a friend of Glenn's Retro Show. So continue. What else you got?
Those are the 3, and then I got to say that I liked Rogue One. I found that to be an enjoyable story.
You know what? All right, I can roll with that.
You're lucky you didn't say those sequels that came out a few years ago.
What sequels?
You dodged a bullet, Matt.
What are you talking about? There's no sequels after that.
Yeah, these aren't the movies you're looking for.
That's right.
Yeah, not happening. That's exactly it. So, but yeah, let's switch the gears
Good.
to something more pop culture.
Go for it.
So we were talking before the show, and I said, Matt, we're going to talk about these sort of things. And I asked Matt, I said, did you watch some movies? And, he kindly admitted that he's not a big movie guy, but I want you to remember back, if you can, a movie that really struck a chord with you as a child in the 80s, and that you went, and it doesn't matter what, it doesn't need to be Star Wars. It could be any movie, and you're probably going to see the chat light up a little bit. So a movie that you'd be like, yeah, I remember that. It was good because of this and this and this.
Oh man, the 80s and 90s had some really, really great movies. It would be hard to nail them all down.
One that's close to you.
But I mean, Ghostbusters, man, that you can't beat that. Being a nerd and being part of the nerd culture, Monty Python and the Holy Grail, I've seen that movie 20, 30 times probably by the time I was 20 years old. I mean, yeah, there's some Back to the Future series. There were so many good movies, Aliens, back then. It's
The
really
Meaning
hard
of
to nail
Life.
it down. Yeah.
Monty Python's Meaning of Life.
Absolutely.
The best part is when the dude's in the restaurant and he's throwing up on that poor woman.
Us waffle thin.
Yeah. You ever watch that, Glenn?
What
Monty Python's Meaning of Life?
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Mr.
of course.
Creosote.
I've seen all those.
And then the big guy, he's not another mint.
Yeah.
And
Mr.
then
Creosote.
he just runs over the table there to make sure he doesn't blow up on them.
I gotta go. Wait, I gotta go to the vomit cam. Andrew was saying there's 14 live action movies, so I gotta start making people sick. No.
Oh God.
No.
Don't look.
Well, we got some people in the chat. Jennifer said Pretty in Pink, Bar to the Future, which I meant to, Back to the Future. The Gods Must Be Crazy.
Oh, yeah,
I
I've seen that a lot of times. Yeah,
that was a strange movie where I learned that African language that clicks for the first time. And what do we got here? What was it? Last Starfighter.
Last Starfighter, yes.
War Games. Rogue One had problems. One Carbon Center said, I don't know, it was okay.
Well, compared to the other ones, I mean, it was the best.
You know what
it was the best Disney one.
You know what I expected from that movie when it was in pre-production? And in my head, I went, if they make this a really badass Darth Vader thing where he's walking around, he's kind of like the Terminator in a sense, that he's chasing these people and he can crush like starships out of the sky and stuff like that. They didn't do any of that. It was this hallway scene and that was it. And I was like, oh.
They did it in Obi-Wan's series, and they still made him lose again.
Yeah, exactly. yeah, exactly. So that's funny.
Sometimes you
The Secret of NIMH.
That was a good. That was good. It was animated. That was good. I enjoyed.
That was Don Bluth, wasn't it?
Yeah, can't fault Don Bluth there.
Our Dragon's Lair guy.
Dragon's Lair, yep. Space
Dragon's Lair, the Blurbs or the Burbs.
The Burbs.
Weird Science. Oh man, have you seen Weird Science? You've seen Weird Science.
I've seen Weird Science, and I've seen the TV show that spawned off the movie as well.
That was on TNT, wasn't it? Turner.
There was
Turner?
Maybe.
All I want to know, there was a TV series? Really?
There was a TV series, yeah.
I didn't know that.
Different cast of characters, but the premise was the same.
Yep.
How many women can you want to generate out of a computer in one?
Being like a 14, 15, 16-year-old boy.
Well, this way they could really explore the topic,
Yeah, I was gonna say this week I don't like this girl. Click. Let's generate another one.
Goonies.
Goonies, yes.
Oh yeah. Wizards.
The Wizards.
Wasn't Wizard that Nintendo?
Basically anything from Lucas or Spielberg back in the day
was good.
But Wizards wasn't that the Nintendo?
There was a game called Wizards, but the Wizard he's talking about was an animated show.
Oh,
a little bit on the dark side. It was a little, dark.
Beastmaster, Mad Max. Oh yeah.
Yep.
Mad Max. William and Emma.
They're concerned about this. I'm taking up medical, so I'm going to be a gynecologist. So I need the camera.
Free inspections.
Yes.
So that's cool. So that's your selection of movies. Now, we talk about this stuff. I remember you talking about that you watched the animated stuff, so we won't talk about that much the animated stuff too much. But what are the other things like? What do you remember, like the arcade, like your first experience walking into an arcade? What was that like for you? You know what I mean? Like walking in there and having your mind blown by all the sounds and bleeps and bloops and putting.
It's so hard to describe when you're that young, and the colors and the lights and the sounds are just designed to like get into your head and just blow your mind. It really is. You know, as an adult, you can walk by one and go, "Oh yeah, that's cool," but as a kid, you're just awestruck. You know. And
you're deer in headlights practically.
Absolutely, yeah. So here's I shouldn't go into this true story, but one time I was so excited to go to the arcade that I threw up on the way to the arcade. I was young and very very excitable.
Hey, that's dedication right there, man.
Yeah.
Physically getting ill for an arcade.
Oh man, I was so excited.
The chat should learn something from that.
Well, so we stop here real quick. Some people are saying the real reason I'm wearing this camera on here. I'm going to start it up here, make Steven sick. So we are going to be doing a giveaway. Okay, so you have to watch the channel. We're going to be doing a giveaway here of one of these. New Wave Toys is going to offer a signed, not this one, it'll be a signed food fight. If I get my camera, whoop, I'm going to head over here. So New Wave Toys food fight will be a contest coming from Kickin Old School and New Wave Toys. So that's why I was wearing, just so I can go like that and say, yep, there's a New Wave Toys cabinet there. So I'll take this off my head because it actually hurts. It's actually kind of a little bit of blood going to my brain as it is.
It's like wearing a VR headset for too long. You know, it's just pulling down on your neck.
Exactly. So just stay tuned. I'll post something in the comments.
It won't be tonight. It'll be
it will not be tonight. I'll put down the contest rules for Kickin Old School. It'll be something retro, but you will have an opportunity to win a signed New Wave Toys. I'm going to look at the right spot. There we go.
Signed by who, though?
By the creator of Food Fight for Atari. And
oh, wow.
I have no blood left in my brain, so I can't think of the name. But it'll be signed, and it's coming to you from Kickin Old School and New Wave Toys. Now I'll take this camera off so I can stop.
Well, when you're saying signed, I was like, well, did your uncle sign it, or like let's sell this signature here a little bit more?
You see, that would have been the right thing for me to do, was for me to say I was going to sign this team. That should be enough. But no, it's going to be signed by.
Nobody wants your signature.
No, that's not true.
Other than to forge your checks.
The IRS always wants my signature. Trust me.
That's awesome. The creator of Food Fight. No idea who he is, but hey.
Someone put down in the chat. I'm sure someone in the chat knows who the creator of Food Fight was, but I'll put down the contest rules, and people will have a chance to win it. And one lucky winner will have it sent directly from New Wave Toys, with Shiloh New Wave Toys' congratulations, and of course ours as well.
Cool.
Good luck.
Get this thing off here. It's killing my brain.
Yeah. Okay, so back to Matt here.
Arcades?
So yeah, what game made you like the tractor beam of Star Wars towards it, and you went, oh my God.
I mean, Star Wars was a great game, the vector graphics, but the biggest game that my local arcade had was the full deluxe cockpit outrun, sitting right out front behind a velvet rope.
Oh my God.
The full moving with the big screen and the speakers, and it was right there. You couldn't miss it as you walked by, right? It was
so
right
this
in your
gave
face.
little Matt a chance to drive a vehicle.
I was 10 years old when Outrun came out, and yeah,
I'm driving this thing.
I really do think that it inspired me later in life, you know, to be fascinated with cars and driving, and to pick up that as a hobby for almost 20 years of my life. So I blame Outrun and other racing games, but none more than that. None more than that.
You know, it's funny you mentioned that. When I played Outrun at the arcade, it wasn't the full sit down at the beginning. It was just a regular stand up. I had an obsession with Ferraris after that.
Yeah.
I'd had Ferrari posters, little cars from Hot Wheels or whatever, or Matchbox or that sort of thing. And it was like obsessed of Ferraris after playing Outrun.
I had that poster. It wasn't specific. It had a Ferrari in it. Everybody knows this poster. It's the one that says justification for higher education. It's got the five cars in it. One's a Ferrari, one's a Lamborghini, one's a Mercedes. Everybody knows this poster. You know, every adolescent kid has seen it or had it.
What's it called? The poster? I want to see it.
Justification for higher education. It's a house on a cliff, like overlooking the Caribbean Ocean. It's got a big garage with cars, open garage with all the cars in it. And if you look at the cars now, they're all very dated, and it didn't hold up really well. But
they're all the back end of each car. I see there's a Ferrari. I think it looks like an F40. No, it's not an F40.
No,
we have a correction here. We have a correction. I'm sorry. We thought the creator of Food Fight was Larry, but it's not. It's actually Jonathan Hurd. Jason M has it right. So let me fix that. Thanks, Jason, for that correction.
That won't be the skill testing question or anything.
No.
So. That's just whose signature you're getting. Right.
There we go. Thanks,
yeah,
Jason.
we didn't have the Afterburner Motion cockpit. We just the outrun one. But
I tried that, and that was rough to be in that thing.
Yeah, that game shakes so much, right? It's back.
Oh
and
forth, yeah. If you had lunch, man, it was making soup in your stomach. It was shaking it up.
Yeah.
It was pretty bad. So what other games was there? So
I'll be honest,
Outrun.
Afterburner, I never loved Afterburner. I just couldn't get into it. It just didn't seem like there was that much gameplay to it. So
it moved too fast for me.
Yeah.
Well, the good thing about Afterburner was the sit-down version. If you had the sit-down version with the cockpit moved,
it was the motion.
That was it. That was the fun part of it.
Yeah. But yeah, the Outrun had the full motion. It was.
What was the helicopter one?
Thunderblade.
Thunderblade. That's right. I remember that one. I enjoyed that one a lot.
Yeah, we had that
flying.
Yep.
It had a cheap. It wasn't that big Outrun thing. I think it was still made by Sega, right?
It was made by Sega. Yes.
Yeah, and this had this one stick, and they had a whole helicopter thing.
Well, Sega was big on that. They had one game where you were actually in like a ball, like you were a hamster, and you could literally turn it upside down and spin and roll. It was a space game, and someone in the chat probably is gonna know what it's called. But you actually were in a ball. When you started the game, the ball went up, and you were floating in this ball. And as you moved, you can spin around. I'm not sure if it was
the Barfomatic 6000.
I don't know if it was Firefox or not, but it was Sega was very big.
About. I've seen it. I've never played it because we didn't have one of those, but I definitely know what you're talking about.
It was one of those like $10 games for like 3 minutes. You know, it was
the maintenance on that must be nightmare.
Right. Oh, here it is. Sega R360.
Yeah, that's it.
Kongs or us. There we go. Thanks, Kong.
LGR did a little segue on that or side on that when he went to VCF Midwest last year. They have one in the back room of a local arcade.
Well, it's one of those things where we have to keep these old machines running because, again, it's the experience of the whole thing. Playing that game in an emulator was not going to really do anything. I remember one of the fun games I played was Namco's Starblade. There was not a lot of substance in the game, but you had this cockpit and you're sitting down, and it was just that experience of feeling the vectors or 60 frames a second. It was a really, really fun game. And
I like Stun Runner because of the speed and the feeling of motion.
Exactly. And then, Sega did a lot with the motorcycles. You actually sat on the motorcycle.
Super hang on. Yeah.
Right. You would lean. Those are experiences that you got to keep the machines going. It's a lot of work. Like Kongs or Us, Retro Ralph, a lot of the YouTubers actually restore the original machines, and that's a good thing.
They're easy to restore.
I
don't have a YouTube channel, but I've done it. And
you've got a couple machines. I got my Zax on here, and this one machine, this poor Zaxxon has been through the ringer. But there's just something about, even with the game system, you can download the ROMs, you get a flash cartridge, you put that one cartridge in, have 1,000 games on it, but there's still something about taking that original, there's something different about it, but something about the cartridge you put in that's that one game, or that disc that's one game.
The tactile part of it.
Yeah, or the arcade experience where you have the special controller, the Star Wars controller, or the Paperboy handles, or any.
I'm going to put you on my marketing material. You're going to be on all my marketing material going forward. See, you got to have the right controllers.
You got to have the right Star Wars game. Oh, a lot of great games being mentioned in the chat though. Gauntlet and
that's a fun game.
TMNT and Simpsons. Any of those multiplayer, like 3 or 4-way multiplayers. Spy Hunter. I totally forgot about that. Hobby Hands. Spy Hunter. I love Spy Hunter to this day. I love Spy Hunter. I was terrible at it as a kid.
Me too. I suck at it.
I only understood pressing the throttle to the floor and holding on. I didn't understand that you could let off a little bit once in a while. So I died very quickly in Spy Hunter, but nowadays I'm actually pretty good at it.
Yeah, All Points Bulletin was strange. There's a bunch of ones in there. So is there one that stuck with you that you'd love to have a cabinet? Meaning that you'd be like, okay, I got to invest and get this
Besides the Outrun cab?
Yeah, I guess that's got to be a heavy bugger to fit in the garage or basement.
Yeah, I would totally make room for it if I could find one, but it's never going to happen at a reasonable price.
Not these days. No,
I would take a Spy Hunter. We had the sit down Spy Hunter, but I'd take a stand up. Honestly, I really, and I can't justify this as an adult, but I really, really loved Double Dragon as a kid. The soundtrack was awesome. The graphics were awesome. now as an adult, I understand that it's completely just designed to steal your quarters.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then
That was it. And you know what?
Those games,
and they
like, they're all
actually
guilty.
showed a guy punching a chick in the stomach and knocking her over.
Yeah, and then you steal her whip. That's Linda. That's Linda. Yeah.
Can't do that nowadays.
No.
That's the in video game world and arcade world, I call them FOvers. And basically what happens is that if you get too close, you might as well just have your hands off the controls and just let it happen. Because you can't wiggle out of it, you're can't stuck. Do anything, you're stuck.
Yeah.
And then
you're in the shoulder lock and you get out as the guy pounds your head.
Yeah, it basically Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is bad for that. Simpsons is bad for that because I have them here, and FOvers. It's that
Quarter
simple.
Munchers.
Yeah, and then it's like, okay, I'll just leave it and then keep going. And lucky for now,
Zero Cool's got it right here, man. They got to be careful.
Yeah.
The cancel culture may kill
Should
Double
be
Dragon.
canceled.
Yeah.
I have no love for Double Dragon as an adult, except for the soundtrack, which is still great. But yeah,
they should make a woke version of Double Dragon.
Now, Steven, what are you doing? You're shrinking every time I look at your screen. You're shrinking more and more.
I don't know. I'm not touching anything. It's your ghetto setup over there, man.
It's not happening to me. It's not happening to him. It's just you.
I don't know. I'm not touching anything.
Oh yeah, My Hero. Yeah, I had that on the Sega Master System. It was on one of those cards.
Yeah, it's an FOver. It's you just let it go, done. And that's I hate that about video games, man. It just bothers me.
Well,
Miss Pac-Man didn't have that.
They learned by the time that Double Dragon came out to how to maximize their profits.
Oh yeah, and that's the part where
that's also like Golden Axe
games.
You know, those games it's just
Golden Axe. You just keep
quarter.
Or like by the time you got to like Mortal Kombat or Street Fighter 2,
well, you can see in the back
lining up.
You can see my arcade. Well, this is just an image, but I've got Metal Slug, and Metal Slug doesn't have the FOvers. It doesn't. It just, if you plow through it, there's a lot of slowdown on the screen. You probably want to overclock the CPU that's in there. But
so here's a question: was Metal Slug designed first as a home game for the Neo Geo, or was it first designed as an arcade game?
I think it's both. Because
it's a trick question. Because I would have said it was designed primarily for initially home use, but it sounds like a trick question, so I'm going to say arcade.
I don't know, to be honest with you, but I think it was meant for the arcade first, but I don't know. I have the cartridge. I love it, and that's it. I don't have an AES system. I have an MVS system. So the AES was the home one, and the cartridges don't fit in each other. It's weird.
Yeah.
Well, they could have. They did it on purpose.
There's an adapter.
Yeah.
I have a few AES cartridges I want to sell, but other than that,
I would love to pick up an AES one of these days. It's on my bucket list of things to acquire. Maybe, but the prices are what they are now.
They're crazy. I got the Neo Geo X, which is about as close as I'm going to get because the prices are just astronomical. I mean, I have a 3DO that I love, but the drive keeps going wonky. But to even replace that now, it's just getting too expensive.
Yeah. Do they have an emulator, a CD emulator or something?
They do, but it's some guy in like, I don't know, Afghana, Kwanzazan, I don't know, some place where he's like, listen, on this night at 3 a.m. between the tick and the talk, you send me a message, maybe I'll get you in a pre-order to get one of these things. I'm like, you know what, it's too hard.
Yeah.
What's that so much sketchy?
Go in a back alleyway, wear a trench coat.
Yeah, it's not that it's sketchy because I've dated, so this sketchy you deal with, right? You date, right?
Yeah, you're taking a risk, but sometimes you got no choice. Sometimes you
it's just even getting on the pre-order. It's even getting in on it. He makes like 5, and then you got to be in that one time to get it, and then you miss out.
Welcome to the retro hobby.
Yeah, exactly. It becomes expensive, and sometimes you don't get stuff for a few years.
Oh, speaking of expensive and waiting a few years, I need to shamelessly to show off now.
Go ahead.
Since we talked about the Neo Geo, which I don't have, and it's on my bucket list, but I did get a bucket list item, and I did unbox it today for the very first time. I have it sitting right here next to me. I don't know if that'll come through.
Oh, nice.
$68,000.
How much?
Yeah.
You had
How much
told
did
me
you pay
earlier
for that?
you were getting that. That's awesome.
How much did that set you back?
Surprising. Well, okay, so they're absurdly
$1
expensive,
billion.
but surprisingly not that bad. I've watched them go in the condition that this one was in for $2,500, $3,500. This was complete in box, completely recapped service, new power supply, complete in box with all the accessories, software, manuals, everything. It's pristine. And I threw a bid on it on Buyee, on Yahoo Japan auctions, and you got it for $1,500, which is the most expensive system I've ever bought.
But that's a system.
But
That's
it's a system.
That's a
This
system.
is a collector quality. It's got the box. It's got everything. It's not going to go down in value. So
Now they are making
no.
a mini of that. They've been talking about. I think it's Japan only, but that is a score.
yeah, I'm really happy with, because
Where do you
you
live?
never know until you get it in your hands. But I
where do you
opened
live?
it today, and I found everything to be in immaculate condition.
Not that I have block picking capabilities, but where do you live?
I'm outside DC, Washington D.C.
So
Matt,
real
you got to
quick.
brush up on your Japanese now, because I think the OS is all in Japanese or
The-
whatever. So,
But the games are all like arcade perfect conversion. But real quick, Hobby Hands did do a super chat about, and I saw this today, and I didn't think it was. I thought it may have been a practical joke.
No,
Tetris the
it's
movie.
real.
Tetris the
Yeah.
movie.
on Netflix.
Really?
Yeah,
Now,
I saw the trailer.
is it
Saw the
about?
trailer.
Is it about him making Tetris?
No,
It's about the making and marketing and rights and
the acquisitions
That-
and everything.
You know what? Thanks, Hobby Hands, for the super chat. That's something I would like to see, 'cause I know the history of that. I know all the Atari and Nintendo and Spectrum Holobyte all buying the rights, and Nintendo just dropped a big chunk of change to the Soviet government. And like,
Yeah, it's a
You
drama.
take it. Yeah.
There's like conspiracy, and there's like, violence, and there's the movie, like, really, I don't know how accurate it is, but
Well,
Guess we're
the
gonna find
guy,
out.
the gaming historian, he did a animated storytell of that story, if you will, like a sort of not animated, but like with drawn caricatures and all that stuff. And he
like
told
animated.
it's not animated; it's just
I
stills,
know.
basically, right? So, and he tells that story. I don't know how accurate it is compared to the movie or vice versa, but I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be on Netflix. Why not?
Oh
I'll
no,
watch
in the
it.
U.S.
I mean,
we get screwed. It's, on
about
Apple
stuff that we
TV.
care about, so
Apple TV.
we got to watch it.
Yeah, for sure. It's we don't have enough video game movies. I'm not talking about Mario and all that crap and Sonic.
Yeah.
I'm
Mortal
talking
Kombat
about the
movies.
history.
I still
behind
want to see
a
an actual
Commodore
Atari
documentary.
movie. And they've done Apple, done Steve Jobs, but there was a lot of crap going on with Atari between
Oh yeah, cocaine
between
parties.
espionage
Yeah,
and
hot tub parties and everything.
drugs and sex parties and hot tubs and Time Warner coming in, and there's so much in there. And they've been talking about it for years. But
They got to do one because there's not enough of it. Like, you're going to see our generation eat up this Tetris movie like nobody's business. We're going to just watch it, and and I'm sure a lot of regular people who own Tetris will just watch it because they love Tetris.
Who doesn't love Tetris?
It's awesome. My
It's-
kids, I don't think have played Tetris. I tried to get them into it, but
true story. When that first came
Fortnite.
out, a friend of mine had 286, or he might have had a 386 SX. It was either 286 or 386, and a CJ card, and he just disappeared. It was like we were young, and your friends always came outside and you played back then. He was like gone for like a week. We thought he was like really sick. Go to his house. He's hunched over here. It was like the beeps and boops from a speaker. I'm like, what are you doing? Saying this is the best game ever. And we're like, come on. And we sat down, and that was our summer. We like spent the summer playing Tetris on this ancient machine.
on the Game Boy or the 486?
No,
Or
this is like
both?
it was a 286
Okay,
back
on the
then.
computer PC.
But
yeah.
then Nintendo got it, and then that was like that's what made the Game Boy.
Game
mean,
Boy, yeah. The
That's
Link
what
Play,
made the Game
yep.
Boy right there. It was like the perfect
Oh, yeah.
thing. If Atari had
Perfect
gotten it, was on
packing
the
game.
Lynx, maybe that would have made the Lynx happen a little bit better. But that game on the
that
Game Boy
was
was
a packing
perfect.
game, wasn't it?
Nintendo wasn't stupid. They knew that was the game to pack it with.
Oh yeah. It's
Yeah, because you had to buy a second one to play with your friends, and so you got 2 Game Boys now.
But if you look at that trailer, the president of Nintendo, the body double person, it looks amazing. Like the guy looks like, I forget the Japanese fella's name there, but looks identical, and you're like, oh my god, they really nailed that actor to play that role. It's amazing. So it's pretty cool stuff. But yeah, so that's going to be, but yeah, I don't know. I'm not anxious to see the next Mario and all that stuff. What about you guys? I don't know. It doesn't say anything, especially Chris Pratt playing the voice.
Well, I gotta
I've
say,
really enjoyed all the spoofs that are coming out for the Mario movie. There's some really good spoofs.
Oh, is there? I'll have to check
Yeah,
that
there's
out.
some trailers that are completely spoofs, which are amazing. I don't have a lot of expectation for the movie itself.
I'm sure it'll be okay, but I don't think that it's
Well,
not something I'm going to watch.
have either of
But-
you watched The Last of Us?
Yes,
Played the game. I haven't seen
the show is really good. It's really, really good. The Mandalorian's in it, so he's done a good job. And like, if I'm not watching the television and I hear the dude talk, I think of Din Djarin, the Mandalorian, and I'm like, wow, that's disconcerting. Holy crap, But it's really good, really good storytelling. It's really they don't overdo the zombie thing, which I like. It's not just like The Walking Dead, It's not that kind of thing, So I was like, this will be pretty good. So far, I think there are 5 or 6 episodes in. It's awesome.
How many episodes?
right.
Is it a 10-episode season?
I don't know.
What service is it on?
HBO,
Netflix.
I think.
Oh, it's HBO Max?
I think it's HBO. I'm not sure.
That's what's good about our show. We don't fact
You know-
check really anything. We're just like, we talk about it. We don't know where it is. We have no idea.
But it's let's see here.
HBO Max. Gallagher Guy 88 said HBO Max.
Okay.
And Pliskin Run, HBO Max.
We don't
Paul,
have HBO Max here. We don't have HBO Max here in Canada, so I get it through
Surfshark
the
VPN.
Yes, exactly. NordVPN.
That's
But
speaking, there we go again. Sponsor of today's episode, NordVPN. Not only great protection, but ways to get around countries and get into systems you couldn't get in before and watch a movie.
Yeah, you guys listening?
Send it over. So that's cool. So do you have any ambitions to collect arcade machines? Let me ask that question to revert back to that.
So
Other than Outrun being, you'll get divorced from your wife or girlfriend or whatever, this thing's in the living room.
it's already a very tentative situation. Hi, honey, if you're watching downstairs. I'm already up to my waist in old computers walking around. They've overflowed from my downstairs out into the garage. I don't have anywhere to put even what I've got. There's no room for arcades.
She'd leave you if you'd got that thing, probably.
Yeah.
You'd be begging for a week.
I feel bad on a daily basis because yesterday I got a Nabu, in box, and I don't know where I'm going to put that.
You know what? Everybody's getting that, and I don't understand. It was made in Ottawa, in Canada, and it was supposed to have like video content or TV stuff or whatever, and I have no idea what it's all about. I've never heard of it. I live here in Canada.
So here's the skinny on that. It was a online only service, so you had to connect the machine to your cable TV service, like you would a Genesis or to get the games library from your cable TV. It only worked connected to the cable TV head end, and it had a library of software, productivity software, games, and things you could do online back in the 80s. The service went belly up in 1985. And no one's heard of it since. And then recently, a guy discovered a whole warehouse of brand new in-box machines. And within a month, someone had reverse engineered the network code, got it booting to Hello World. They got in touch with one of the original developers, got a backup of the entire network, restored it. And now you can use it on the internet.
Wow.
What?
So yeah, there's this is amazing backstory. Look at if you Google the Nabu network, you'll find that there's a ton of videos. It's been making the YouTube rounds ever since Adrian's Digital Basement made it popular about a month ago. It's just taken off like a rocket. And there's a limited number of them. They're only $70, brand new, in box, never used.
Can you still get them?
The latest. They were available 2 or 3 days ago. I bought one. They come up in batches and then they disappear just as quickly. The guy
Would that be
sells
this right
as many
here?
as he can ship.
Is that what they were talking about right here? The Nabu Network Reconstruction Project?
Mm-hmm. Yep. That's the one. Yeah, there's a couple fan sites. They go through all the progress of how they reverse engineered it, how they got the software running. Now there's homebrew on it. Now someone has replicated the disk controller and the serial card for it, so you can run CPM on it locally. it's a Z80. It's got very similar specs to an MSX machine. It actually has the TI video chip in it, same as the Coleco and the TI-99.
Well, that was part of the MSX standard, wasn't it?
Yeah, this isn't an MSX, but it's very similar to one, and so the software can be ported.
That's crazy.
Easily.
That's what I was seeing all over YouTube. This Naboo computers, and people are like, "Woohoo! I got this thing in a box. It's wonderful." And you're like, "I don't get it. You can't connect it to anything." Now that I understand the network's back up, hey, I might get one.
Yeah,
if it's under $100,
great. Yeah, $70 in shipping, and it's got Canadian history, so that's how you justify the purchase.
Or this is it right here. Yeah. I never heard of this. The Naboo PC, the 80s computer you never heard of. That's what this thing is.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah. There's a ton of YouTube videos on it right now, and So, I bought one. No, Paul, I do not have a storage unit. I'm just waiting around for this stuff. And I just buy new stuff whenever a deal comes along, and this seems like a deal. So.
I might actually get one. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit more about this. I honestly have never heard. Believe it or not, I never heard of this thing. So tell me a little bit more about it. What's so special about the network and the system?
There's nothing particularly special about it, except it was very obscure, and it's sort of the darling of the internet and the retro community right now because everybody is involved in restoring it to a functional state, right? When they first discovered this cache of unopened machines, you could plug it in and it wouldn't do anything. Nothing. There's no local I/O. So, reverse engineering how it talks over the network, then getting the software to run on it, getting copies of the original thing, instantiating them on the network, building an adapter to talk to the internet so you can connect to the service. You can even run it locally on your own PC now. They've got a Raspberry Pi build. They've got a Mac and PC build. So, and now people are building homebrew for it. They're porting all sorts of stuff to it. So it's just exciting to see, from the ground up within a matter of months where this thing has come from and gone to. So
it's kind of funny because this says it was come out in 1982, and the infrastructure was very basic back then to have something like this. So it's it's a dumb terminal that requires the network really for its entire functionality.
Yep, it has an RS-422 interface. It has a cable TV box that plugs into the CATV, and it talks bidirectionally to the cable head end and the servers that they're running there. And so they run and host all of the application software, and you can buy licenses to CPM, you can buy a license to educational titles. It's subscription based. So it lasted 3 years, and then it just kind of faded away into the night.
Interesting.
I'm gonna have all the leftovers were in a warehouse.
Yeah, and then they just were discovered recently, and now they're.
It went for how much you said?
$70.
You have me very intrigued now.
Yeah.
There's no TCP/IP by any means. It's probably a modem that's sitting in there. Or is it over the cable network? Is that what you said? Or?
It's over the cable network. Yeah, there's a cable interface box. You don't need the cable interface box now. You just use a serial interface to your PC, and then there's a proxy. So
or Raspberry Pi or
Raspberry
Pi
locally. Yep, and it hosts all the content. Yeah, they're just. Yep.
That's cool.
It's really neat. Yeah, it's really neat, and they load pretty fast. I mean, it loads faster than if it was sitting on a disk. Games come up in 7 to 10 seconds, maybe.
Huh. Intrigued. Yep. I'm gonna have to. I usually watch Adrian's Basement too. I always watch his stuff, but I've been so busy. I haven't seen his stuff in a while, so I'm gonna have to go take a look at that. And it's a good channel, Adrian's Basement. If you ever heard of it, check it out. He's got a lot of good content down there.
We'll see if we can get him on the show one day.
Well, yeah, good luck. But we could try.
We could try. Yeah, maybe try to get him on or whatever. But that's awesome. So, but we're getting close to the end. We've got 2 minutes. I want to thank you, Matt, for taking the time out of your Friday.
Oh, I'd love to
come and chat with us and hang out and shoot the shit, as they say.
Yeah, I'd like to have you on again if you wouldn't mind, especially after you get your 68,000
going and all that.
Well, both of them running. I'd like to have you back on and give you some of your feedback because those machines basically, well, the Naboo, don't know anything about it, but the 6800, that's a fine. That's a good deal. I want to see that thing working. I want to see some of the great games. I know they had a great version of R-Type on there. I never forgot it.
Yeah, R-Type and Gradius, they have like Arcade Perfect. They have a lot.
That's crazy.
Ghosts and Ghouls is perfect. Final Fight is pretty close. The best port of Street Fighter 2 because they used that machine as the development platform. Capcom used it to develop the arcades. It has the same infrastructure. The arcades were based on the the X68000. So yeah, looking forward to
getting.
getting
It had the Motorola chip in there, the 68000 Motorola. Yeah. Okay.
Hence the name. Yep.
And back then it was 68,000 that was like this big. It wasn't that little square one. They had the real 68,000 on those bad boys.
This machine from 1986 has a full megabyte of VRAM. It's got 2 dedicated video processors, 128 sprites on screen at one time, 16,000 colors on screen at one time. I was using a Commodore 64 when this machine came out. I mean, it's just...
How much was it back then?
Over $6,000 in equivalent currency. Yeah.
A direct conversion to US dollars. So that's like 8,000 Canadian. That's the price of a car.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, yeah, little expensive, but yeah, they're very interesting, and I'm looking forward to. I'm going to put a Blue SCSI into it and load up every single game that was ever made, and we'll see what it can do.
Cool.
All right. Well,
so
once again,
what we want you guys to do in the chat
Steven. Yep.
is go subscribe to Matt's channel if you haven't. If it's your cup of tea, go check it out. Get him up to 16 million subscribers like PewDiePie or whatever. And, I want to thank him again for coming on the show and hanging out. And,
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's been a pleasure.
I hope it was a lot of fun, which is good. So it's
time went by too quickly.
It does. That's why we'll have you on again. And also remember, I'll be posting in the my channel how you'll be able to win a signed food fight from Kickin' Old School and New Wave Toys. But in the meantime, I want to thank Retro Bits, obviously, for being on the show. Do check out his channel. And another Friday is come and gone, gentlemen.
Wow. Goes by too quick, like you said, Matt.
It does.
Well,
quick.
Have a great weekend, everybody.
Thanks for watching. And remember, everyone, no matter what you do, get onto Retro Bits, get yourself a New Wave Toys, buy yourself a $70 computer, and remember, most of all, too, game on.
At the Tiny Arcade fan page. Remember, don't admire people too much. They'll disappoint you.
Sit, blue, blue, sit.